Last week, I just think I broke this loose from somewhere. Oh, there we go. Last week, I told you how it was suggested that I respond when someone said, "Good morning, how are you?" Does anybody remember what I said last week? Okay, so how are you this morning? I'm alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic, and filled with the joy of living. You feel so much better after that. So I read this comment and I wanted to share it with you, and it says, imagine what you get done in the world if you didn't have to worry about who gets credit. If we didn't have to worry about who gets credit. Imagine if we could just get over ourselves and contribute. As it says in our purpose statement, to be in community. Imagine if we worked as community that we could accomplish our mission, a world that works for everyone. And we have numerous opportunities, don't we, to support one another, numerous opportunities to step up to the plate. Of course, we can't support someone if they won't admit they need help. And a lot of us like to think that we are totally self-sufficient. I don't need anybody. I can do it all myself. And you know what we're doing? We're doing that. We're taking away from a person's opportunity to give to us and to share their gifts with us. I know I don't like to admit that I don't know how to do everything, but sometimes it's really helpful to have someone who really knows what they're doing step up to the plate. And isn't this what we are here? We're a community who works together. And that's part of the beauty of this community here, this center, is that each one of us has a unique gift, and yet we come together and we work together and we create beautiful things like the calendar and the music and the space, all of it. Every one of us is unique, and every one of us has a gift that we can offer to contribute to the whole. And we need first to return to and connect with the sacred nature of creation. Only from the foundation of this lived relationship can we attempt to bring our world back into balance. So I have a story for you about a little girl named Dorothy. Now, Dorothy was fascinated by goldfish. And her father told her, yes, you know, the goldfish swim through the water by moving forward. They swim forward through the water by wagging their tails, by moving their tails. And she responded and said, yes, Daddy, and fish swim backwards by wagging their heads. And in her mind, that was really true. And don't we all do that sometimes? We move backwards by wagging our heads because we harbor beliefs about what we think is right. I know that I'm right, and you aren't. You know, we harbor those thoughts, and we strive to be perfect. We strive to be perfect, and we strive to let everybody else know that we are. Or sometimes we create the worst case scenarios in our minds, and we get to bring that into our lives. We get to bring that horrible thing that we think is going to happen, and so we create that for ourselves because our minds are swimming backwards, just like those fish. So Isaac Lidsky did a TED Talk, and he talked about going blind, and he said he lost his sight, but he gained his vision. He says that sight's an illusion, that what we think changes what we see, and two of us can see the same thing and see it differently. They say that with witnesses at crime scenes. Everybody witnessed the same thing and nobody saw the same thing, if that makes any sense at all. So our minds can distort, and fear can distort what it is we see, and we create our realities just like Dorothy with the fish swimming backwards. So what it's important to do is to see beyond our fears, to let go of those, let go of our assumptions, and look for what lies within you. Let go of the lies you tell yourself and look for the truth within you. Brené Brown says that we need to fire the naysayers and the fear-mongers. She also talks about how often in a relationship, the other person likes you better than you do. You know? They see the good in you, and you are thinking about all of the things that may not be quite right. And oftentimes when we do that, those relationships don't work very well. So what we get to do is we get to exchange those backward head waggings, and we get to pick up the ones that will help us move forward. When we do things that can help us to feel connected, we feel worthy, and there's so many things that you and I deprive ourselves of because we don't think that we're good enough. They might be good enough, but I'm probably not. And so what we need to do is become aware of our own sacredness. There's a book called 10 Practices to Reawaken the Sacred in Everyday Life. And in it, we're given hints on what we need to do to start moving forward. First of all, we need to reconnect to our sacred nature and the sacred nature of creation. That is how, when we live that relationship, we can bring the world back into balance. Our actions need to be based upon our inner convictions, our inner presence, our inner knowingness. How difficult is it to belong, to be part of a community? How many of us, growing up, didn't think that we fit in any group? I just don't fit in with those people. I think all of us have had that experience at least one time in our life, and all of us dance to a different drum, don't we? And some of us dance to more than one drum. We have our go-to-work persona, we have our parent persona, we have our church persona. We change our persona for whatever our experience is. So then we get to try to live in this divisive world by adjusting ourselves. All of those are separate, and yet all of them are us. We are one. And we are separate from one another. Is that not true? We are separate from one another, and yet we are all part of a community. And there are many ways that we connect to ourselves and to each other. So I have some examples from this book, and one of it is called Walking. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet." He says to remember that sacred is not a place you go. Sacred is a state of being. Sacred is what we are. Nature is everywhere present. It surrounds us. It's part of us. And walking reinforces our connection to the earth and to all of nature. Our hands and our feet and our breathing all reinforce it for us. A little while ago, Kaleem asked us to breathe. So that's what we're going to try here. We're going to use the Taoist breathing technique, which is to breathe slowly and silently and naturally. And when you inhale through your nose, the belly expands, and when you exhale through the mouth, it releases effortlessly. With each inhalation, imagine you are drawing in the pure energy of the universe. It spreads through your body, refreshing and renewing you. With each exhalation, you release the old and unneeded energy. So try placing your hands on your stomach with me. And take a deep breath and feel as that expands. Breathing in that divine and holy energy. Feeling it as it moves and circulates to every cell and fiber of your being. And as we exhale, we let go of anything that no longer serves us. So let's try that one more time. Inhaling that divine energy and letting go of what no longer serves us. We are releasing all that old, unneeded energy. And then there's gardening. How many people here garden? How many people here have a house plant? There you go. If you don't garden, you have a... Well, there's something about plants that reminds us of the mystery of life and death and creation and rebirth. Not just the outer birth, but the birth of our soul. Each seed is an individualized expression. And each one of us is an individualized expression as well. We know if we plant a radish, we get a radish. We plant a potato, we get a potato. We don't get an orange. And so we need to be careful about what it is that we plant. What is it that you're planting? Are you planting peace and love and joy and connection? And cleaning. You know, the monks used cleaning as a way of meditation. Peeling the potatoes, cleaning the floors. There's the story of the enlightened master who was asked, you know, what he did after became enlightened. And he said, well, before he became enlightened, he washed the bricks and carried the water. And after he became enlightened, he washed the bricks and carried the water. Ecology impresses us with the fact that we need to recycle. We need to recycle not only the physical things, but we need to, and compost, we need to recycle the things in our daily lives. If we don't, we can create within ourselves a landfill of waste. Think about that. You're carrying around all of this garbage that no longer serves you. When you're sweeping away not only the dirt on the floor, but the cobwebs in your mind, letting go again of what no longer serves you. So how can we return to a simplicity of life that honors the simplicity of our essential nature? Simplicity is the essence of life. So when we can let go of the non-essential things and move to what's important for us, we can get quiet throughout the day. We can go within and look at what's happening for us and what we choose to have express in our lives. When there's nothing happening internally, life is kind of a void. So to go within, to be one with the divine, to move through your life based on that sacredness of who and what you are. Learn from nature. Trees grow toward the light, don't they? Trees grow towards the light. Rumi says, I am bewildered by the magnificence of your beauty and wish to see you with 100 eyes. I am in the house of mercy, and my heart is a place of prayer. In prayer and meditation, we open our hearts. And when we open our hearts, we also open our minds and our souls to the love and to the wisdom of the divine, don't we? Listen with your heart to the song of the one. There is only one life. And then there's death. And death is as sacred as birth. It awakens us. It opens us to the unknown. It is one of life's greatest mysteries. And it reflects into our lives what really matters. I'm sure you've all heard the story of the man who said when he was dying, he didn't think about how much money he didn't earn. He didn't think about what he had accomplished in his life. He thought about the people that he loved and shared his time with and wished that he could have more time with them. So it's important, if you know someone who's ill or dying, to be present for them, It's a very sacred thing to do. Our presence is so important, and we don't have to do anything. We just need to be there for those people. We can also bring our awareness to the earth and the myriad of things that are dying here. Allow yourself to acknowledge that death is, different species are absolutely disappearing, animals and plants. So in Montana, I went with a friend to some ecology things, and one of the things that they called our attention to was the bees, the pollinators, and how when we go out and we clear our gardens in the fall, we're taking away a place for them to place their larvae. That when you cut down those sunflower seeds, you're destroying the place where they can nourish their young. I didn't ever think of that. You know, I always thought you went out in the fall, you cleaned the garden, that you got ready for spring. But what they suggested is not to do that, to leave those till spring, because the larvae of those pollinators are within those stalks. I was amazed. I didn't know that. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So life speaks to us in many ways, doesn't it? It speaks to us in many ways. When you go to the post office, someone smiles at you. In the grocery store, well, sometimes they honk at you, and they're not speaking and smiling then. But besides the interaction with people, we get to see the clouds forming. Did anybody see the termination dust on the mountain? Yeah. I thought it was kind of early, but maybe I was in error. But, you know, it shows us the seasons that we get to move through, that life is constantly changing, and that we bring meaning. It's woven into our lives. It's sacred. It's sacred. I think I really like, I don't know about the rest of you, but I like the very first snow, because I like that stillness that just seems to settle over us. By March, I'm ready to not have snow anymore. But in the fall, when it first starts to snow, there's just like a peaceful hush that falls over the entire area, and I really like that. We are surrounded by the sacred. It is in the core of our being and in the earth. And Rumi says there are 1,000 ways. There are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. It is this sacred ground that is calling to us, that needs our living presence, our attentiveness. We are all part of living being, the essential nature of everything that is. So what we're learning is that we are all connected. We are all one. And what happens to one impacts all of us. So we can choose to live in love. We can choose to live in community. We can choose to honor our fellow creatures upon this planet. We're always at choice. So I'm asking you, what will you choose? Paul, I have this beautiful thing from 1 Corinthians 12. Paul says, even so the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. The whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as it wanted it to be. If we were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor, and the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty. While our presentable parts need no special treatment, but God has put the body together, giving greater honor to the parts that lacked it. So there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with us. Paul is telling us we truly are all one, and that what we do and what we think affects the other. So even though it's happening on the other side of the world, what's going on there truly does have an effect upon us. Each one of us has our gift that we can contribute to the community. Each one of us has a gift that affects all of us. John Lennon spoke to this when he said, "You say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one." Perhaps as we begin to recognize our unity with one another, perhaps as we begin to understand that what I do affects you, what you do affects me, perhaps we really truly will live as one. So what is ours to do? What is yours to do? What is mine to do? What should we be doing to contribute to the world? Certainly honoring one another, honoring our fellow creatures, honoring the plants and the trees and the mountains. All of those things are things that each one of us can do. Lending a hand to someone when they're in need is something that we can do. Being willing to receive when someone wants to help us, that's another thing that we can do, because when we don't, we're cutting off their good. They're trying to help us and we're saying, no, you can't do that. Herman Melville says we cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow man. And among those fibers, as sympathetic threads, our actions run as causes, and they come back to us as effects. And isn't that what we teach here? One of the things we teach here, the law of cause and effect. And think about if you throw a pebble into the water, how it ripples out. So each action that we take has an effect on others. Each thing that we do has an effect on others. And so I'd like to ask you to please join me in a prayer. Sweet, sweet Spirit, Father, Mother, God, that divine and holy essence in which we live and breathe and have our being, the one, knowing that truly each and every one of us is part of the one. I know that I am one with that divine and holy presence, and if that is true for me, that is true for each and every person here. One with the one with love, one with light, one with peace, one with joy, one with all that is. So as I speak my word this day, I know that in the ensuing week, in the ensuing month, that we recognize our oneness, our connection to one another, that we look beyond appearance and we see the truth of another's being. We see their wholeness, their light, their love. We see beyond that appearance to the truth of their being, one with the divine and one with one another. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the strength and the power and the wisdom of the divine that embraces us, that moves us forward, that keeps us sacred. I am grateful for each moment that we spend in community. I am grateful for the life and the love and the joy that we share. I release this word now to the perfect working of the perfect law, which always, always and only says yes. Please join me in affirming, and so it is.